Welcome back to the Titanium Hangar. This is Mike, and today I want to talk to you about the business of third-party distributors, and I want to talk to you a little bit about why I was actually planning on getting into this. It was a crossroads in my life about a year and a half ago, and I made a lot of phone calls, had several discussions with current third-party distributors, some of the bigger names, some of the smaller names, got a lot of information about it, actually was ready to put some money on the table with some seed money, and I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I didn't get involved in that. I was actually in the process of selling off about a third of my collection for 24 years of collecting, generated revenue through that. And during this crossroads in my life, I realized something about the business of selling third-party figures. As profitable as it may look to you, there are a lot of challenges. I'm going to talk about those coming up. First of all, I have a healthy respect for these third-party companies. They are operating on a little bit less margin than you would possibly think. And of course, none of them were going to come out and straight tell me exactly how much they paid for the product, because that's just not some information that they were going to make privy to me. But with a couple of conversations, I was able to extract a handful of prices that other third-party distributors are paying. And I look at their pricing models and their pricing structures. And of course, that's sort of what I got my education in marketing. So I enjoy pricing and selling and all of those things. So it's kind of fun. Now I decided to jump into YouTube a lot more because it's a lot more fun. So the first thing I want to talk about is the pricing structure and how they decide their pricing. And according to several, there is no specific MSRP. So looking at a Hasbro figure, like a Hasbro Deluxe figure is going to be $20. They set it at $19.99. Pretty much everywhere is going to be $19.99. A couple of places are going to price a little bit above that, but for the majority it's going to be $19.99. Maybe you'll have some loss leaders like Walmart and price a little bit lower, but for the most part you're going to see $19.99. When you get into the Voyager in the US, it's $29.99. That's pretty rigid. It's pretty much that's what the price is going to be. When it comes to a third-party company, it's not like Fans Toys is saying you are going to sell this hoodlum for $90. They don't come out and say this is the price. Or at least a year and a half ago, the consensus from the people I was talking with, they mentioned that. They set their pricing a different way. Now, a lot of them take whatever they have to pay for the product per unit, and then they add a multiplier to it. So the multiplier being something like usually double. So if they were getting hoodlums for $45 and they charge you $90, well, that sounds great, right? It sounds like they're making $45. But if you look, the majority of the third-party sellers are including free shipping. Of course, a lot of us have to maybe get to the 150 mark or whatever, but that doesn't change the fact that they pay for the shipping, and that's one of their costs associated with this. So based on all of this analysis, let's just break it down on a hoodlum. So if they did get a hoodlum for $45 and they sell it for $90, they make a profit of $45, but not really. Shipping it just in the US. So if they ship one in the US for between $9 and $13 based on the size and weight of hoodlum, and to have some tracking and have all of that, you need to go with it. Take $45 profit minus the $13, you got a $32 profit. From that $32 profit, the bigger ones have other employees that they pay, overhead, taxes that they have to pay on the profit, and all of that, dwindling it down to far less than you'd realize. Probably closer to $20 profit on that figure. So the margins start to erode very quickly when you look at doing this. And you also have to look at the fact that even when we start getting into ordering quantity numbers, it really is not a huge quantity. When you think of Walmart selling something for $20, they're selling 1 million of that same thing, not maybe just 200 to 400. But when you look at this, you got to front the cash. It's not like as you sell it, you pay for it. No, if they buy 400 hoodlums, and they're $45, that's $18,000 cash that you are having to front for this figure. So you start looking at that, and the profitability starts to erode quickly. So during the time I was considering getting into third-party distribution, here's the figures that Fans Toys had on the way. And what we know is that hoodlum is not a bad figure, but not the greatest figure in the world. I like him, but of course he has his problems. Rouge has her problems, RC, and there's actually quite a few issues with her that it's really kind of a one-off for Fans Toys. And she didn't sell well for the longest time. It took her almost a year to sell out at most of the retailers, and she's probably still in stock at some. And then if you also look at Mindwipe, now Mindwipe is a bit of a different one, because obviously he's in a higher pricing structure, pricing category. Plus he's bigger, plus shipping cost is going to be more all around for this figure. And guess what? All of the third parties that I've seen, the distributors have put this guy on sale. So I've seen him at multiple places, well, maybe not all, just multiple places, for 110. Now this is a figure that most people were asking 150 for. And my partner Show Z was asking 133, and that's of course where I got mine. And I still think it's a very good figure for the 150 or the 133. But looking at that, all these places putting them on sale for 110 because after a year of having them in stock, he wouldn't sell out. And that was an issue. So getting into having unsold stock, how long are you going to have it on hand? And the next release is coming along. You're having to cough up that 18 to 24 grand for that next release so that you can continue this distribution. The next issue I found with this, getting into this business at all, is the fact that you don't have a constant flow of the top-notch product. You don't have a new figure getting released every week or every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks or even every month. I mean, some months are very, very light for Masterpiece releases. And although that may be good that, hey, I need to sell through some of these figures so I can generate the next 20 or 18 or 24 or 30,000 to buy the next batch of figures, you need filler pieces. And some of these filler pieces don't sell very well. Some of them sell very well. You don't know which filler piece is going to sell the best. So keeping a constant flow of product and something fresh on your site requires you to have these filler pieces. Now, of course, I didn't really want to deal with having a bunch of filler pieces that I didn't really believe in, or I didn't think would sell well, or just didn't want to hassle with. My whole mentality was I want to get into this business and just sell the top-notch figures, and I just want to pick and choose the releases that I want. But then I come to find out that's not how the game's played either. Let's just say you love Fans Toys products, but you see the pictures and images of the Spindrift and you decide, I don't really want to mess with that figure. Well, the game's not really played like that. The expectation is you're going to continue putting out and buying the figures from them and putting them out to your customers no matter what. Whichever release it is, you take the good with the bad. And guess what? A lot of people are still stuck with Spindrift. Which, by the way, Spindrift's not a horrible figure. It's just not the best of the best of the best for a Seaspray. So let's just say you're looking forward to getting Thomas because you feel Thomas is going to sell really well. You have to buy all the subsequent releases up to that so that you can have your ability to buy this figure. And of course, you don't want to ruin that relationship with Fans Toys, especially a predominant company like Fans Toys. You don't want to ruin that relationship. You don't want it to be turned off. But here's another thing. You have no clue. You have absolutely no clue about the quality, the QC, or how well it transforms, or any of this stuff about a release until it's released. You don't have any more insight as a third-party distributor than anybody else that's out there. Now, some get test shots. So, yes, you have the test shots that come out, and you realize that these preliminary versions of the figure, or the prototypes, are put out so maybe some reviewers can look at them, the third-party distributors, a few of them get their hands on them, send them around to reviewers, and the reviewers can say what's wrong, or what's good, what's bad, what they need to fix. But a lot of times, the fixes don't get made. I mean, really, in the end, the problems that we see with a lot of the prototypes are still there in the final release, and you usually don't see true fixes until maybe a second release. And that gets into my next point of service after the sell. So another thing that you don't think about when you think about, well, I'm getting into third-party selling. I want to sell these third-party figures. I want to buy low, sell high. I want to make $1 million doing it, which probably you're not. Here's the thing. Service after the sell, you have to deal with this no matter what. You will lose your reputation as a third-party distributor or vendor if you don't do a good job of service after the sell. You lose your customers, you lose your reputation. And nowadays with all of this online media, a mistake happens, it's out there in front of the world in seconds, and guess what? How do you handle that? Well, we've had problems with several Fans Toys releases, which I don't think are huge problems, but I think some people thought they were bigger problems than I do. Talking with this Hydra this 6-shot had some weak knees. Now, I don't know how many people wanted to send them back, but I heard a lot of complaints about it. And a lot of people that were trashing the figure, the entire figure, because the weak knees were not strong. They didn't have strong ratchets in the knees to hold up a very heavy figure. Mine stands just fine. I don't manipulate them a lot, but I can tell if I manipulated it a lot, that knee joint would get even weaker and be more problematic. Same thing with, well, Blur. And so, how do you know that somebody gets it, is rough with it when they're transforming it, and breaks it? Well, you don't really know, but you're going to have to deal with the service after the sell anyway. And especially with high-end Masterpiece Transformers and dealing with something that is very challenging to transform. If you don't do it right, you could break it. And, you're gonna have to follow up on that. I want to say that since I deal with Show Z the most, I do respect how well they've handled any situation I've had. I've only had a few over, 2 years and 100 figures, and the few that I had, the few very minor issues I had, they took care of very, very fast, and I was very pleased with it. So also, I've dealt with Fans Toys directly, and I've gotten a couple of parts for figures that I needed, and so I'm actually pleased with that also. So dealing with, say, another company outside of Fans Toys, say Keith with his X-Transbots, or, Keith's Fantasy Club, and all of that, I think they're great products, but they do business a little bit different. And so I found out a few things about this company, and Keith is more bottom line profit driven, and he really, he puts out a lot of figures. He's going to make money on every run, and guess what? They fund his next production run. But here's the problem. If you're looking at what's going on with Keith and what's going on with X-Transbots, you're getting a lot of reissues. You're getting a lot of stuff restocked before you see a new figure, which, yes, Fans Toys does a little bit of that. I think all the companies do it. But I'm seeing it more with X-Transbots than any other company right now. And I'm seeing it over and over and over. And so what if you're one of those distributors and you are up for everything they're putting out? You're buying restock. You're restocking old figures again. Now, the reality of it is, most of these old figures are still popular and they still sell, but they don't sell as well the second go around. I mean, nothing really sells as well the second go around, except for maybe like the special edition, kind of limited edition stuff Fans Toys put out. But when you look at this, you're having to go through 3, 4, 5 reissued figures before you get a new mold. And that's a bit of a frustration that I see with X-Transbots, and if I was a third-party distributor, kind of would bother me. So my end result outcome out of all of this, and all looking into it, considering it, actually seriously getting ready to put some money on the table for it, I have a high level of appreciation that are in the business and those that deal with all of the problems day to day with buying and selling third-party Masterpiece Transformers. I am very appreciative that we have an outlet to get these things, and they aren't as ridiculously expensive as, say, Takara. I am appreciative of the fact that these things are more accessible from reputable retailers, reputable sellers, and those people that do this for a living. I'm very thankful, and I think we all should be. Which gets into my question. What do you guys think about this? What do you guys think about third-party sellers, third-party distributors, all the things that they have to put up with? Are you guys kind to them if you have an issue? Let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe. Teddy Hanger out.